Well, how did I get here? That's a long story. Reverend Crystal Williams, who is our Associate Regional Minister, and I have to tell this story because Crystal and I have a long relationship going back to her days as a student at Christian Theological Seminary in Indianapolis, where Walter and I were for a good 9 years. I had called Crystal when my son went off to school and said, you know, if there's ever an opportunity to do an interim pastorate, I think that might be a good experience. In my corporate life, I had done a lot of consulting in IT. So I was used to this idea of going in for short periods of time, learning and assessing organizations and trying to figure out what you could do to help. And I thought this might be a fun thing to do. Well, at the time, there were no open pulpits, and I quite literally forgot about it. In October of 2009, she called me and said, Terri, are you still serious about wanting to do an interim? I have a church that is looking for an interim pastor, and I had a dream where I saw you in the pulpit of this church. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. And, you know, as we've talked about celebrating our anniversary, all of the years at First Christian Church of Downers Grove have not been easy ones. And I came in as interim pastor after a very difficult season. And one of the things that I did with Crystal, we had several lunches. I had several conversations with Sue Heisinger, who was in the chair. So I knew what I was getting into. But let me tell you, the first time I came to preach, which was in October 2009 actually, I knew that I liked these people. I wasn't prepared to like you as much as I did. I had done a lot of pulpit supply in our region, and sometimes you go in and you do pulpit supply and you just preach and you leave. And sometimes you click with people and sometimes you don't. They had heard that I was a teacher and new members at Salem. Crystal had done a very good job of telling them about me, and I know there were other candidates they were looking at, but I was amazed at how much you knew about me and that I really enjoyed teaching, particularly in a church like Salem that's 18,000 members, African-American church on the south side, and the new members class was taught largely for previously unchurched people. And everyone that I talked to after service said, tell us more about that teaching that you're doing at Salem. We want to learn more here. Sue said, we're getting ready to start a Wednesday night Bible study, and we really want someone who enjoys teaching. And I talked about the new members curriculum. We should do something like that. Their hunger and thirst, your hunger and thirst for more of God, is really what warmed my heart and made me excited, because I was like, I'll get to teach, this is great. At that time, really didn't think of myself so much as a great preacher, but I loved to teach. I was in a situation where my husband was serving a church that did not yet recognize me as a minister. They did not yet recognize women in ordained ministry, and it had caused me a great deal of pain. I had been places in Chicago where I wasn't allowed to stand in the pulpit. I had to stand on a lectern on the floor. So my own community, sadly, had not given me the opportunities that this church afforded me and that my own denomination, the Disciples of Christ, had afforded me. So when I came, I wasn't really sure. I told the search committee, they asked me, do you want to hold off and apply for the regular pastorate? I remember Dixie Franklin calling me that night and saying, we want you to come and interview for interim, but if you want to be the regular pastor, we'll wait for that. And I said, I'm not sure I want to do any of these things yet. Let's just look at the interim piece. And I came and interviewed, and I remember Jim Claffey and Bob Went kept looking at each other. And I couldn't figure out if it was a good thing or a bad thing. I had never interviewed to be a pastor before. I didn't know what I was doing. I had not done it. And I just remember being so excited to come to you and so thrilled to have the opportunity. I remember saying they're going to choose another minister, and Crystal and Teresa and I had talked about maybe this needs to be a longer interim. During that time, we reorganized the church board. We had like 22 slots. We had more. The church was smaller. And I think the thing that impressed me most was that people recognized that we needed to become what we needed for that season. And we streamlined the church board. We started meeting with the elders during the middle of the week and not just quick meetings after church. We started spiritual development work with the elders. We started a new program in Christian education using the rotational Sunday school model. And talk about somebody operating in their gifts, that's where Sue Huizinga shines. We work together on a curriculum theme, and each month the kids have a different theme. Whether we have 0 children or 5, we are ready for them. They do cooking, they do crafts, they do, you name it, they do it. They've done little dramas, but we always have something interesting and ready for the children. We started getting our nursery ready, and now guess what? We have a toddler, and we have a mom who's pregnant with the new baby. As we've prepared for God to send us, God sends. There were several weeks when we didn't have any children in Sunday school, and then all of a sudden they started to come, and we had a curriculum ready for them. I really have been moved by not only the energy of this congregation, but just the way everyone works so hard. Hayen Park, who was our intern last year, a student from South Korea, I overheard her telling some of her friends, they have more energy than people our age do.
That's true.
The first summer I was here, people talked about taking a break from Wednesday night, and I thought, I'd never been in a church that took hiatus during the summer. I was like, huh? A break? I understand it now, people. We do so much, and there's so much going on, and as I look around the room, I see the people who are just always there, involved in every project, the new faces, people with new gifts, exciting new ideas who've come. I think of the music ministers that have served us, B.J. Barlow, who was here at the right time. Sue and I just talked about this last week. B.J. already had a pastoral presence and was here during that transition between the last minister and the time I came as interim. Wonderful musician, had a heart for worship. Walter and I joke and say that he's sort of the son of another mother or father, whichever way we want to go. But he has a heart for worship and is now working in the Pacific region as a youth pastor and is in care for ministry within the Disciples congregation. And he came to understand ministry in a way that he could relate because of his time here at First Christian. Rolf Thurman is now our choir director. Before that we had Danielle Yomaz, who served us faithfully, and it was so great to hear your voice again this morning. Danielle and Sophie who sang, and Rick Sladek. All of these people have come on board during my time. We bought the piano and clavinova, a team of like 12 people. Went to the music store. I think I'd been there a month. And I was like, committees, really? It took 10 people to buy a piano. But this church loved music, and I was so excited that people made that commitment. You've been open to my nudging in a different way in terms of contemporary music. I'm married to one of the most phenomenal music ministers in the world, so I get some of this honestly. But all of the work that we have done together, the back to school fair, I have to say, I hold you in my heart, I really do. And more than anything, apart from the ministry that we've done together, the imprint that you've had on my own ministry of helping me to see myself even in this form of ministry and allowing me the opportunity to grow right before your eyes. Preaching every week, people hearing me preach now are like, oh my gosh, you're a lot more comfortable preaching now. I'm like, I preach every week, people, except for a student minister. But you don't understand the growth that you've allowed in me. And whatever I am, wherever I go, it will always be because I got foundation here at First Christian Church of Downers Grove. The music ministry, the worship team, Becky and Martha and all of us who work with me to plan worship, I just can't say enough. There are too many stories to tell. I do want to say a couple of things about a couple of ministries that we've begun that are really important. Our ministry in Belarus, really inspired by Dick and Martha Anderson, who before the church was involved, they were going there and giving and donating. Dick is a great example of someone who has passion for the children of Belarus. And Dick has educated me about this ministry to the point where I really became to care about it and began to support the notion that we needed to do more as a church. It's important that you share your passions with the people around you and educate them about it so that we can then work together to make something happen. You saw some hangings in the fellowship hall. Those children say thank you in big ways and in small. And we've increased our participation to send kids to camp and to make financial donations to the orphanage that was so affected by the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. Alan Chandler continues to be passionate about fish. Jim and Joy Claffey continue to be passionate about pads. I and BJ Barlow and other people are really excited about the back to school fair, and this year Dick Anderson is mobilizing the efforts there. Bill and Sue Ellen Cook, a wonderful addition to our elders team. We are entering a process of discerning becoming an open and affirming church, and we were proud to vote with the resolution last summer and at General Assembly, and we even hosted a Q&A session at our church to ensure that other congregations and other members could have an opportunity to hear about what our church more broadly was doing. You're not afraid of any question. You're not afraid of any opportunity to serve. And I'm so proud, so very proud. I think of all the souls that have gone. That's sadly been sort of a hallmark of my ministry as well. That some of the great members of this church, Pat and Ted Eichel, Jack Galbraith, Ed Moreau, Ruth Haug, Kathy, Ted Cruz, Kathy and Steve Krug. Hard moments for many of us, but boy, what a privilege to hold people's hands, to be able to help them make their transition, and to be able to show them the love and to really mediate the presence of Christ with them in those moments. Many of you weren't part of some of that, but just know that it has shaped me in ways that I carry with me every day to have been a part of your lives and to continue to be a part of your lives. Thank you so much for allowing me to walk this journey with you. And thanks to Bill and to Herb and Marilyn and all those who have served. I want to say a special thanks before we close to our office manager, Carol Clifford, who is one of the two people during the day who keeps me going and straight. Carol has put together our booklet, prepared all the things that have made this day look good, the signs and the name tags and the bulletins and newsletter. There are things that pastors can't get done themselves, and together with our wonderful chair, Karen Johns, I tell my students, be pastor and let the congregation do the things that they're supposed to do. Pastors aren't supposed to do everything. Pastors are supposed to empower and enable people to use their gifts for ministry. So with that, I just want to say thank you. You've done more for me than you could possibly ever know. I love you, and here's to many more years of ministry together. God bless.